Welcome back, dear viewers, and you are still watching The Breakfast Show, and in this segment of our program we will talk about the government efforts to attract more investments to to attract more national and international investments to the country and pump them into a number of sectors of the economy. And to know more about this issue, I joined over the phone by Mr. Abdel Latif Wahba. He is a journalist specialized in the Council of Ministers. Good morning, Mr. Abdel Latif.
Good morning.
So, Prime Minister Mustafa Madbouli affirmed that the government is focusing during this stage on pushing efforts to attract investments to many priority sectors of the national economy, indicating that this is done through serious steps to overcome all obstacles. Can you tell me more about these steps and the government's efforts to face these obstacles?
Let us say first that the government,
yes.
the cabinet is aiming to attract the foreign direct investment, Arab investment, and also foreign investment in Egypt. And at the same time, they are targeting to encourage the international companies working in Egypt to increase their investment at the same time. As you know that they, according to the recommendations and the directions of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi to the cabinet, they approved awarding the golden license for the investors. It means that any foreign direct investment or investors can get the golden license through submitting their own cabinet website. And to get it, I think, in about 30 days. And this is, of course, means that the investors avoid all the bureaucratic procedures that was implemented during many decades in Egypt, and they can get the license and also the final approval from the cabinet directly. This is on one hand. On the other hand, that you know that the government also presented many incentives for the foreign direct investment in Egypt concerning some facilities in many different aspects, especially in energy sectors, transportations, and also industrial zones in Egypt. As you know, all these procedures are aiming to attract and to increase the foreign direct investment in Egypt. As you know that there is a problem or an economic problem in the world due to the Ukrainian-Russian war, and many foreign investments are trying to find more stabilities and areas. Especially, they are moving their investments from some European countries to the Arab countries. So it is a chance for Egypt to attract the foreign direct investment in current time.
Yes, sir, the Prime Minister made this statement during his meeting with the CEO of the General Authority for Investment and Free Zones, who reviewed efforts related to the Golden License issuance file, as he confirmed that this file is actually receiving a very great attention from the government, and that a special unit has been established to issue this license. So can you tell me more about this unit and to what extent it will facilitate the issuance of this license?
As you know that the cabinet, as you said, paved the way for all direct investments, not only in one sector, but in all different economic sectors in Egypt. And they considered the golden license as one of the most important procedures during these times to attract the Arab investment also to the Egyptian markets. As you know that now, after the cabinet and the President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi approved the state-owned certificates, they can offer during the first quarter of 2023 many opportunities in Egypt, especially as you know that the government will exit from some sectors and also will participate with the private sectors and with the strategic investors in other sectors in Egypt. And I think it is a chance for the private sectors to increase its investment in Egypt. And as you said, the government aims to increase the private sector's investments in Egypt in the budget from 30% to about 50% at the first phase, 50% at the first phase, and it can be increased to 70% after that. So the government is still insisting on the partnership with the private sectors. As you know that Egypt during the last 2 years implemented an economic reform program and at the same time administrative reform program at the same time. So they are trying to amend some procedures, to amend some laws or drafts and so on, to let for the private sectors to increase their investments in Egypt, especially in industry and in basic infrastructures.
So, sir, how do you see the role of the General Investment Authority in attracting new investments operating in various industrial fields to cover the needs of the Egyptian market and exports abroad and contribute to deepening the local component and substituting imports?
Really, we have many different arms that helping the government, especially Gafi, for example, and also the Sovereign Fund of Egypt. They are playing just now an important role in promoting for investment in Egypt, in preparing some companies or state-owned assets to be offered in coming period to the private sectors through the stock markets or through private negotiations between the government and the foreign investors. So I think Gafi played a role just now to and coordinating at the same time with the Egyptian embassies outside to promote for the investment in Egypt, for the how they can attract the new foreign direct investment, not to give only the chance for the international companies working in Egypt to increase their investment, but to attract a new foreign direct investment in Egypt. And as you know, at the same time, Gafi is an utility or a body that responsible for granting the license at the same time. So they abbreviated all their steps to be in only in one step. I mean, they got the license, for example, and they can grant it for the investors during weeks, a few weeks.
Yes, also, sir, what are the important files that top the agenda of the cabinet at this stage, other than investments?
I think the main important point just now is to pave the way for the new for the expected new investment in Egypt, especially in some important sectors like oil and gas, like transportations, like electricity at the same time. And as you know that the government, after directions of President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi, is doing its best to clear all the commodities and the goods in the Egyptian ports to be released to the local markets, and for also for the factories and so on. This is, of course, will help them to resume their productions again. As you know that many of these commodities are some components and the tools and the logistics for the industrial sectors here in Egypt.
Yes. So, sir, let's also talk about the important role of the private sector at this stage. How significant is its role, which exceeds 75% of the size of the economy, in supporting industrial and investment zones?
Yes, you know, as you know that the economy in different parts of the world, especially in Europe and in Asian and Asian countries, is depending upon the private sectors. And in Egypt, they are trying to increase the private sector's contributions in the Egyptian economy through increasing their investment. This is the first one. And as you know that during the last years, 5 years, for example, the private sector investment in the public budget in Egypt is about 30%, and now we are targeting to increase it to 70%. What does this mean? It means that the government can redirect its spending for the social privileges for the social services like education, like health, like and so on, like social solidarity services. But now, as you know, that when the private sectors increase their investment, this is of course means that the government will depend upon the private sectors in implementing many investments in Egypt.
Yes, sir. Also, can you tell us more about the Cabinet's effort to ease the burden on Egyptian citizens, as we have seen now that there is an economic problem, global one that is affecting the whole world. So can you tell me more about the steps taken by the Cabinet to ease the burdens on Egyptian citizens?
Yeah, of course, as you know that the people, not only in Egypt but even in Europe, they are suffering from the high increase of commodities, prices of commodities and the services and so on. This is, of course, due to the Russian-Ukrainian crisis, and also due to the shortage of some basic commodities like wheat, for example, like energy. At the same time, as you know, that Europe suffered also from the shortage of power. In Egypt, we suffered at the same time from the high prices due to the imported commodities.
Yes.
As you know, that we importing about 5 million tons of wheat, for example, and also from the corn we imported about 7 million tons, and we depend upon the foreign markets in securing vegetable oils, and the prices of these commodities or basic commodities we imported from outside are increased at the same time. But as you know that due to this problem, President Abdel Fattah al-Sisi increased at the same time the minimum wages of for the Egyptians, for the state employee workers, or for the state workers, state-owned workers, and at the same time they increased it, the social pensions, and also increased the annual bonus for the Egyptian employees. And last week, I think the National Council of Wages decided to increase the salaries or the minimum wage of the private sectors at the same time to about 2,700 pounds for the private sectors. This is, of course, some procedures to avoid the sudden shock of the global markets, of the global prices, and so on. This is on one. And at the same time, as you know, that we have many different initiatives like Decent Life, and others to present some services for the needy classes, and at the same time, as you know, that they supported the people after the cabinet decided not to increase the prices of electricity, for example, and to provide the the people registered on the ration cards about 100 pound for every ration card.
Yes, I'd like to thank you, Mr. Abdel Latif Wahba, journalist specialized in the Council of Ministers, and I'd like to thank you for this precious information and give viewers a short break, and we'll be back with our second segment for today, so stay tuned.